Yo YouTube, this is my video for Wednesday the 3rd of September, and I'm on my way, having just picked up a load from the Lincoln area. I'm going down to Uxbridge. Now I'm going to tell you about this job in quite a lot of detail, and I had a bit of a quandary which ended up being a really easy decision for me, but I want to just double check whether we're in agreement as to what you would do in the situation I found myself in. And obviously there's no right or wrong answer to this. We all have different ways of approaching this work, and literally it doesn't matter whether you have a different answer to mine or not. But in the end I came up to a decision, and I thought that was really easy to make a decision. Right, let me take you back in time to yesterday afternoon. I bid on a job going from the Lincoln area to Yeovil. It was for a small van job, 250 miles loaded, and I bid £250, 250. And my thinking was, it's about a 5-hour journey, picking up at 9 o'clock, so I'll have time once I'm in Yeovil to get something to pay for my diesel to get home, and then that would be a decent day for me. So I needed to get one more job from Yeovil on the way back to where I live, and then it would have been a decent day. And that felt like a fair price, and it felt like I would do that and be happy doing that. That job got cancelled or sold, and a few minutes later another job came up on the system. Same shipper, going from Lincoln area into Uxbridge, west of London. So I bid on that job. It was 150 miles, 150, loaded, same small van job, and I bid £170, 170, because my thinking was, Lincoln's an hour away. I don't think I'll get anything in London, but if I could get a bit of extra money just to drive out of London, then that'll make my day more palatable. And I got that job pretty quickly, and that's what I picked up. I picked up a job from Lincoln area. I'm on my way now to Uxbridge, £170, and it's 150 miles loaded. Lincoln from my house is about 25 miles. It's about 45 minutes drive, and so all in, I'm getting roughly just under £1 a mile for this job, including driving to Lincoln and driving back down to London. So I'm happy with that. It's a 3-hour job in total. I'm going to be there around about 12:30, and then I can try and find another job. And crucially, I'll only be about 2 hours away from home. So if nothing else comes up, I'm not that far from home. When I picked up the job, I read through the notes again, and I looked a bit further down, and it said, a bit further down the notes in CX, that this was a parcel that was going to be taken ultimately to Yeovil. At that point, I realised, oh, this is the job that I've been on before that I didn't get. It's the same job. And I thought, well, I can get to Yeovil still. So I thought I'd give the shipper a call, and I'd offer to take this to Yeovil if they wanted me to. And Lincoln to Yeovil was 5 hours, as I said. So I rang the shipper, and I spoke to the guy who gave me the job, and I explained the situation, and he said that he wasn't the person who could decide, his boss would. And his boss decided it this way to save money. And so I said, well, I can take it to Yeovil if you want me to. So he said to me, when you're 20 minutes away from our office, which is where I'm taking it, I'll give my boss's number, you give him a call, you can then talk to him about whether you can take it to Yeovil or not. And I thought, well, I don't really want to go to London and then Yeovil, I want to go straight to Yeovil. So it wasn't very appealing to me to do that. So I said to him, the guy on the line, oh, don't worry about it, I'll just bring this to you, and then you can sort out the rest of it as originally planned. And you know, we weren't having any sort of argument, it was just a very amicable conversation. And my thinking at the time was, now that I've got this job for £170, 170. It's in the bag. I'm taking it to London now. It doesn't make much sense for me to then take it from London to Yeovil, because how much am I going to get for that? And I thought, well, how much would I want for it? So just to give you some idea, it's about 2.5 hours drive. It's about 120 miles from London to Yeovil, from West, actually from West Drayton to Yeovil. So I would want to do that for around about at least £100. But if I was to offer it for £100, that would mean that the whole job has taken 270 now, and they weren't able to give it to me. They didn't feel it was worth it to me at 250 yesterday afternoon. So why would on earth would they give it to me for 270 today? In addition, I'd end up in Yeovil after 5 hours drive. No, sorry, after 5.5 hours drive, having gone to London first, and whatever, you know, I don't know. I don't understand the reason to go to Yeovil to London first. I just don't get that. But anyway, that was what was on offer. So I'd end up going to London, talk to someone there, and then go to Yeovil. Would have been the best part of 5.5, 6 hours. So more time, and I would have ended up 5 hours from home later in the day. So none of that appeals to me. It's further mileage slightly, it's further time slightly, it's later in the day getting to Yeovil than it could have been if I'd gone directly from Lincoln to Yeovil. And my rationale is the boss going to really give me £100 for that? Because that's more than I offered yesterday. So no, it's going to be more likely to want to do it for less than the £80 it would cost me to be the same as yesterday. So is he going to want to offer me for £70? So why would I go from London to Yeovil for £70? So for me, I'm not bothered about trying to win this job to Yeovil, because I don't think it makes any sense for me as a driver to do that. But maybe you would. Maybe you would have the conversation. Maybe you would talk to the boss and say, I'll do this for X amount. But what would the X amount be? What would you offer a boss of this company to do the London to Yeovil leg? If you were prepared to do it. Because I wouldn't do it for less than 100. I'd rather get 130 to make my whole day 300. So personally, I'd be offering to do it for 130. But I'd probably settle, if they were really nice to me, at 100 just to get the job completed. As it stands, I happen to have a job that's going to take me 2.5 hours now from this point, and I'll be in London and I'll be finished before sort of 12:30. No, around about 12:30. So I don't think I can do better than that. Right, I'll let you know how my day goes. Cheers. Right, update time. It is now just gone 1:05, and I delivered my first delivery in Uxbridge, and I was off site at 12:30. And what happened was, I was giving the parcel to another driver who was going down to Yeovil, who had a airside pass. He may have been the other side as well, I didn't ask, but obviously that was the solution they came up with. So fair dues, that sounds like everyone's happy. When I was offloaded at 12:30, I wanted to get somewhere to park up and have a look through the jobs. There was about 60 active open jobs at this point, but I couldn't stay where I was for very long. Now, in hindsight, I wish I'd just stayed there for sort of 10 minutes, because I had up to half an hour free in the car park. But I decided I didn't want to risk it. So after about 5 minutes, I went to the nearest supermarket that I used to use their car park, which was about 3 miles away, about 11 minutes drive. And I couldn't really do the driving and also look at the jobs, because it was just outer London chaos. I was moving, I was driving, but I always forget just how many people exist in this part of the country and how many buildings there are. It's just non-stop buildings, traffic, people, bikes, trains, buses, lights. It's just quite overwhelming on my senses. So I couldn't really focus on anything apart from the driving to Aldi. But the reason why I wish I'd stayed where I was is because I got a job pretty quickly, and it was a job going from West Drayton, pretty much where I was, just another part of the airport complex, and it was going to Manchester. It was a long trip, small van job, just one box, and I put a bid on of £130 for 195 loaded miles. I haven't worked out the pence per mile, it's something like 65 pence per mile. So it's not great, but the reason I put that figure on was it makes my total for the day 300, and it gets me out of this area. And for those two reasons, there were two positive reasons. And in this situation, I think the phrase "a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush" applies. If you can get a job that you want, no matter what the price to some extent, I've just learned to take it. I could sit here for hours trying to find the perfect job at the perfect price. So this is neither a perfect job nor a perfect price, but it's a good job at a reasonable price. In terms of the distance, I mean, not just the pence per mile. Anyway, so, and the other thing was, I had to get back to pretty much where I'd come from, which involved a 10-minute journey, which I've done. I've picked up the load, and it's now, as I said, just gone it's now 1:10. So within just over half an hour, I dropped off, got to my next pickup point, and picked up my second job of the day, and I'm on the move, which I think is incredibly good considering how busy this area is, how difficult the navigation is with traffic, and how many other drivers there are. So I'm happy with that. It gets me very soon, I'll be on the M25 and heading away from London. My time at Manchester, I'm going to say around about 5 o'clock. That's being conservative. I should be there a bit before then, but that's allowing for a bit of traffic delays. And then, ideally, a little job heading east would be fine, but I don't need a job heading east. I think probably a £50 or a £40 job at the end of the day would really be a nice cherry on this cake. But I'm going to make something like £230 as it is, without any other jobs. This is net of fuel, and I'm happy with that, if that's what it ends up being. Yeah, so that's it really. I'm pleased, and my heartbeat is still beating quite hard because of all the overwhelming busyness of this place, but I want to get out of this area and just get back on the road and start driving, and I'll be a bit calmer, I think. So yeah, okay, I'll speak to you later. Cheers. Right, stats time. The time now is 7:30. I'll be back home in about an hour and a half, just over an hour and a half, and my drop-off in Manchester was fine. A bit of delay on the M6 north of Birmingham as usual, so I ended up arriving there at 5:20 in the end. I did call the shipper about an hour and a half or so before, and they seemed to be very appreciative of the phone call. I let them know that was going to be a bit later than I originally thought. So that was a good thing to do. So yeah, my stats for today. I did look for jobs going back, but I was quite hungry. I had to use the toilet. By the time I'd done all that, it was more like 5:45, and most of the jobs were pretty much gone. I did bid on a couple of jobs, but I didn't get them. And once I got over the Pennines, I just thought I'd just go straight home now. There's no point looking this side. It's just going to delay my days too much. So my reflections on today are, I regard this as being a good day, and I'll talk about my second job pricing in a moment, in hindsight. But let me just give you the stats first of all. So I've filled with fuel today. So my new average fuel price for this week is 13.92 pence per mile. I would have driven 518 miles, 518, by the time I get home. I would have worked for around about 13 hours. I've made from 2 CX jobs £300, and my fuel today is £72.11, and that means that my net earnings today after fuel is £228.228, and so that brings my average per day for the last 3 days to £235 after fuel taken into account. So still a pretty good figure. I'm not going to be working tomorrow, at least not for most of the day. I may do, if I'm lucky, I'll get a job in the morning taking me where I want to go. And then if I'm not too tired, I'll get a job getting me back at the end of the day. But I'm going to assume that neither of those two things happens. So I'm going to assume not working tomorrow, and I'll be next back at work on Friday. Now, reflecting on those stats, what I'm taking from this for myself, and this is all I'm really doing, is sharing with you what I've learned, is when I was in Uxbridge and that job came up going to Manchester, I got very excited about it and I wanted to have that job, and pricing it was quite a difficult thing to decide what to do. So I went quite low. I didn't even look at the price per mile. I went with what would I want to earn today as a total, and I made it up to the £300 mark. I was pretty sure that I would get the job at that price. And then after I'd put the bid on, I worked out it was in the mid to late 60s per mile. But I'm not worrying about too much about that, just to give you some sort of reference, really. So the thing about today is me driving from my house to Lincoln to London to Manchester back to my house. Effectively, I now know is £70 to £75 worth of fuel. So I know really I want to try and earn, because of that, £325 gross in a day. It is possible that I might do £300 gross on another day and not have anything like that amount of fuel costs. But now that I've sort of hopefully can remember that, you know, that sort of size trip will cost that sort of amount, and I would say I should have gone for a bit higher money if I'd realised the amount of fuel I was going to pay. So ideally, would I have got the job if I'd bid not 130 but 155? And I will never know. I will never know the answer to that question. I suspect it would have been a lot less likely I'd bid 155. I think somewhere between the two figures is probably more realistic. So maybe 140 would be still quite easy to get a job, or maybe 145. As I talk about it now, I'm thinking maybe 145 would have been a good bid. But then I'm running the risk of not getting the job at all, aren't I? So at the end of this whole discussion, my conclusion is I did the right thing. I'm happy with what I did. I've earned the right amount of money, and that's all I care about. I've had a good experience today, and I've learned something else. And next time I'm in the situation, if I remember to try and cater about £70-75 of fuel, I may or may not get the job, but at least I know I can compare it to this day. So next time in the situation, I'll try going a bit higher and see if I get the job. I was very close to that job, 10 minutes, so I could have been a bit bolder with the pricing, I think. But you know, you got very short amount of time to think of these things. So basically what I'm going to say is next time in the situation I'll try a different tactic in terms of pricing and then report back as to how it worked. And that's what I can do really, is try and find a similar situation and try a similar tactic. So we'll see if that happens next time. Right, so I'll thank you for watching my video. I hope that you are all being successful. Have you choose to find that word for yourselves. Farewell, friends.